Hello everyone, we are doing another genetics video, and this one's going to be pretty controversial. Well, doing this type of content anyway is already controversial, and my channel is probably at risk of getting a strike doing this sort of thing, even though it's just basic facts and research. There's basic biology and genetics, but that's something we got to contend with anyway. Because people get offended when you do race and genetics. People really get offended when they really shouldn't, but it's just how it is. So we're going to get into the idea if Nick Fuentes is white or if he's ethnic, if he's brown, if he's whatever. Okay? Because there's this whole thing on Twitter going around. People are saying, oh, Nick Fuentes isn't white, he's Amerindian. So, Nick Fuentes, before we get into anything, I'm pretty sure he's 80% European and 15% Amerindian with a little bit of Middle Eastern, North African in there. So, that would make him, it would make him basically a Euro Castizo. So, that's essentially what his racial classification would be. But we're gonna get into the question of if he's white, and we're gonna go into the category of if he's socially white, culturally white, or if he's also biologically white. So I'm gonna kind of break it down into those two categories because I do believe that genetics are the most important thing. So let's say a man from the Levant or from Georgia or from even Iran, some of these guys can look really, really white. So culturally, people would say, oh, they're white. I've seen some guys who are Semitic. I've seen some guys from Iran who look really, really white. You know, look at Syrian Psycho. The guy looks pretty damn white. So there are instances where you'll see crossovers of Hispanic and Middle Eastern people mainly that can look white, act culturally white, are pretty much indistinguishable in terms of how they behave and act. But that's just the social and cultural question of it. Today we're going to get into both. We're also going to get into the biological and genetic aspects of what makes you white. So we're going to get into that because I do think that's the most important thing. Because while you can look, this just goes into the question of phenotype. While you can look a certain way, that doesn't necessarily mean that you represent that in terms of your phenotype. There can be a discrepancy there. We talk about this in the Black Pill sometimes. Phenotype can often say things about you, but it's not the full picture. There is a genetic undergirding towards this whole thing. So we're going to get into that. Enough of me rambling. So we have on Vahadu, it's hard to pronounce sometimes. We have his coordinates here, and I actually have the coordinates of Nick Fuentes. I got it from a guy on Twitter. I think his name was 447 Tolkien, so thanks to him for giving me this. So we're going to get right into, or also we're going to say this too. I have the Moriopolis 2026 modern samples, so this is essentially the updated 2026 model of all the ethnicities. So we have a pretty good reference sample. So we're going to get into his closest populations to him. This is actually a very, very good website to determine these things. So you can see here, Vahadu, they'll give you different models. It'll give you how far they are, but this is the best one in my opinion. So we have his closest populations right here. Argentine Euromestizo, Mexican Euromestizo, Colombian Euromestizo, Venezuelan Blanco, Paraguayan Euromestizo, Chilean Euromestizo, Guatemalan Euro Ladino. So going down the list, we got Cuban, we got Turkish. See, when people say, oh, Nick Fuentes is close to Turkish people. Now, this can be misleading when you get into these genetic websites just because you'll see okay, this person's close. You'll see like, oh, Italians are close to Ashkenazi Jews. That means they're almost the same. It doesn't mean that. You'll see in mixed race populations such as Ashkenazi Jews, Sephardic Jews, Hispanics. These are very mixed populations. Since you're crossing over different populations, sometimes they'll land, and also Turks as well. So they'll also land sometimes close to each other. Because look at Turks. Turks are mostly Anatolian with Central Asian ancestry, Turkic ancestry. Hispanics are mostly Southern European, Mediterranean. Same with Turks, Mediterranean ancestry. They're very close. And like with Nick Fuentes' case, 20% Amerindian ancestry. So there, and Amerindian ancestry is Mongolian. It's East Eurasian. Same with Central Asian Turks. It's East Eurasian. So there is that East Eurasian shared ancestry there. Not shared, but close in proximity, which is why they'll see, oh, they're similar. Don't get it mixed up. That doesn't mean they're similar. It's just their genetic profiles kind of mimic each other. They mirror each other in certain ways. So just because they're close doesn't necessarily mean they're close. So just you got to look at it in the full context when you use these websites. They're good, but you got to look at the full context. Okay, so his closest populations are other mestizos, other Euro mestizos, and essentially Turkish people. So guys like Hassan. So we're gonna get also to this website here too. Actually, no, not this one. This one. I put in Nick Fuentes' coordinates on mygeneticsmap.com. Another very useful website. Kind of sucks because you can't use a Europe sample. You used to be able to do that up until like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So kind of sucks. But I put in his samples. Now this is a unique Hispanic reference. I would say Nick Fuentes he is Hispanic in terms of, for all intents and purposes. But this is very unique because he is still pretty damn close to European populations. Like, if you don't know, the more bright and hot the color is, so in this case, red is pretty hot. Like, the more brighter it is, more lighter color, then it means you're closer to it. So as you get more cool colors like purple and blue, that means you're farther away. So in Nick Fuentes' case, here's Anglo-Australians. He's not super close, but kind of like when you look at a number here, let's say France, he's 0.11 distance. I would say anywhere from 0 to 0.05, that's pretty damn close. Like Argentina, he's 0.07. That's his closest population. Or his closest population is the Uruguay sample. But I would say, like, if I'm going to break it up, like 0.05, if you're within that distance, which would be like a really bright fucking color, like I believe it'd be green. That's pretty damn close. 0.05 to 0.1. You're getting a bit farther, but still damn close. 0.1 to 0.15. You are somewhat close, but you're getting farther. And I would say 0.15 to 2. That's you're still pretty far, but there was a shared ancestry, even though you are still pretty far. So Nick Fuentes, he is somewhat close to Europe and somewhat not. So if you see, like, if you put a white person sample here, I'll show you actually right now. If you put a white person sample, 1 second, let's just bring up Italian, and analyze it. You see with the Italians, they are much more closer. Like, you put Italian, they're Italian, they're 0.02. France, they're a lot closer. Spain, they're a lot closer. Now, when you get to the Nordic, the more like Germanic countries, they're kind of similar with Nick Fuentes, but they're a lot closer. Like an actual pure European person, Italian, who's not mixed with Amerindian, they're a lot closer. Now let's go to Spanish. I'm just gonna put in a more pure European ancestries. Come on, go down. Oh, I gotta maybe do this. One sec. I don't know why it's not going down. 1 second, bear with me, guys. This is I don't know why it's not. It's fine. I have a sample here. 1 second. Let me pull up a Spain Andalusian example reference sample here. So let me just copy and paste it. Bear with me, guys. So you look at look like this is a Spain from Andalusia. This is a Spanish sample. They're a lot closer. Like the distances are a lot less. So putting back like if we're gonna look back at the Fuentes chart, his samples were a lot farther. Well, not that much, but still a pretty decent amount farther than what you would see for a typical, even a Southern European. They're a lot more closer to the Germanic people, to all other Europeans. The Nick Fuentes sample is a lot more farther. Not so much more, but definitely there is a difference there. And that is due to the Amerindian admixture. Fuentes, while, he looks white, acts white, I would say, culturally, talks like a white person. On the front, you see, this guy's a white person. But looking at his DNA, he is a bit more farther, than an average normal white person would be. So is that a little bit of that 15% Amerindian ancestry does a lot. It does a lot in terms of, it does a lot in terms of, changing your proximity, your distance, your FST to Europeans. And so that little 15%, it changed a lot. His closest populations were, let's go back here. Let's copy his ancestry one more time. I'm going to copy that. His closest populations are other Euromestizos and other Eastern Mediterranean populations that are also mixed. So going here again, we're going to end the video soon here, guys, because it doesn't need to be too long. His closest populations are Argentina and Uruguay. This makes sense. And this is why we're going to get to the question if he's white. His populations, look how close he is to Argentina and Uruguay. Those are his closest populations. Now, you're not going to... He is mixed, so it's hard to get a super, super close sample because he's mixed. But those are... It's Latin America. It's Argentina. That's his closest population. It's same with me. I have the same thing with my ancestry because me and Nick Fuentes are kind of similar in terms of our ancestry. So now it's not that he's not close to Europe. He still is, but that little 15% definitely shifted him away. So because as you can see, the colors are a bit more cooler. But anyways, guys, to answer the question, which you all want to know, is Nick Fuentes white? I would say not exactly. Now, he is mostly European, but that little 15% does shift him away. And I do consider, the term white or European, you got to be like full-blooded or close to it. Because when you start introducing other like highly divergent ancestries, and you get these problems where their ancestry is much farther. So I do support Nick in what he does. Some things I don't, but I do support him. But I would say there is a bit. I would say he is mixed race. He's a mixed race Euro-Castizo, which would not make him pure white, but doesn't mean we can't support the guy, or doesn't mean he's not an ally. So, anyways, guys, that's going to be the video for today. Just expect more of these genetic videos to come out. So that's going to be it. Yeah, if you get offended, that's not my problem. And just stay tuned for more videos. Take care, guys.